Welcome, everyone. Today we have a wonderful guest with us in this LAULIMA episode. We're going to speak again about the Heal and Evolve Global Online Summit, and today with Jeff Levin. I'm very, very grateful that you're here with us, Jeff. Before we dive into our interview, I just want to note that people who have not yet signed up, please sign up for the summit. You will not only receive free access to these beautiful speaker slots, but also receive some gifts from our speakers. So really make sure that you have signed up. Yeah. So welcome, Jeff. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, but also for coming to the Global Online Summit. I'm really, really grateful that this works out for you as well. And as the online summit already mentions, we set this at the specific time between solar eclipse and equinox because we really feel this is now the time where people are coming together more and more in this transition to together envision a time that is better than we are living in right now, if we even want to say that, but something where we can thrive as humanity on this planet. And I would be very curious to hear from you how you perceive these times. What is very specific from your perspective, or how do you dance with this time?
First of all, it's good to be with you, Danny, and thank you for having this time with me. And yes, it's a very big question. We all know that this is a time of tremendous chaos and conflict, but a very special time, a very privilege to be alive at this time and to be playing a transformational role. And I think we've come on this planet at this time to do so. Those of us that already chose even before coming into this realm. So, it's like the body. When the body is ill, it's such an opportunity. It's a gift. We can either become a victim to the situation if we become embroiled in it, or we can see it as a great blessing and a gift for us to transcend it. Now, it's not like we can easily change the chaos. The chaos has always been there forever and probably will for a very long time. I think we all understand that the world, the 3D world of the five senses is about 3% of our total reality. And the 97% is typically the unknown, but it is a vast reality that we can choose to abide in, transcend the chaos of the 3D world. It's a choice. Either you get sucked into it, or you find a bubble of reality where you can live in that space at all times and observe what's happening. So it's not like we're denying what's going on. We can observe it and be more effective from that place. If we caught up in the chaos, then there's very little we can do. So it is a matter of moment by moment choice to choose to live in the 97%. In that spiritual realm. And this is something in my life, as I've been presented with many opportunities to get caught up in the pain and suffering of people and the conflict. And life presents us these opportunities at all time. But it's an opportunity to rise up and transcend that. And it's not just an opportunity, it's a joy to live in that space and commune with the energies in that space and the people that we choose to be together with in that space. So life alignment, which is the technique that I work with and have founded, that's what we work with. However, it's not always that simple. Naturally, meditation and spiritual practice can take you there, but life alignment is extremely effective in releasing the egoic patterns that hold us back. And we've got to do that work. You can't just say, all right, I'm now in the 97%. Because I think the whole planet and humankind, is moving into that dimension. They say we're moving into the fifth dimension, whatever that means. But there is a reality in that. And so we're going through some serious teething situations that it's birthing, it's painful, and we'll come out the other side. And the most important thing, I think, for me and for those that I work with is for them and us together to stay in that realm, and then we can be effective. And I think we are. I think most of our work is global. We do a lot of group work, and it's a community that and a family, a spiritual family that chooses to be there, not just individually. I don't think we can do this individually. We come together collectively in agreement, and I think there's a quotation from the Bible that goes something like, when two or more of you are gathered in my name, I am there also. And we work with the overriding presence of many, many ancient beings, very high beings that are participating with us. We don't do this alone. We do it with each other. We create a certain synergy, but we are supported by immense forces. And once we become aware of that, there is intercession, and we can be guided and inspired and supported to be in that space in co-creation. This is not something you can do with your mind. Life alignment is not something I could have developed with my mind. It comes from a much higher place beyond the ego mind. The mind, unfortunately, is probably most of the time the problem, the blockage. So we have to transcend the analytical mind and surrender to this incredible frequency of love. And it is the current of love, the power of love, that does the work. We just have to open as instruments, surrendered, open. Sorry, I'm doing all the talking here.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful to listen to you. And there's so many things that you're mentioning in words. I can feel totally like the space where you're coming from and where you're also putting attention to in the words you're speaking. And there's so many words even that are resonating. Many of us are speaking about this opportunity. Many of us speaking about the decision or the choice that we have to actually stay in our grounds and stay together in community, to hold that frequency so that also others can join. And to really, I feel, it's the faith part is so important to say, like, we know that there's a beautiful world waiting for us, and we know already also how to move there. And sometimes our mind is holding us back, or our ego is holding us back, and we're trembling again, but then we're coming back. And I really love to see how it seems like all of us in our very unique ways are perceiving exactly the same message or the same information about what is so important about these times. And I can assume that for you, it's been decades of working and decades of supporting people and bringing people together and building this beautiful global community. And I feel it's just so needed now. It's almost feeling like it has been a lot of preparations for also exactly this time when we are shifting in a different earth frequency, if we want to say so, but also in times where we need each other, and we need each other to support each other and to walk forward. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And you were already mentioning life alignment, and I want to invite you to speak a little bit more about that, because that's also what you're obviously bringing to the Global Summit, and we have also an offer for our audience to attend the workshop afterwards. Maybe you can spend a few moments to share a little bit more about your modality.
So life alignment is a system of healing and transformation, working energetically. Naturally, we recognize that everything is energy. We are mainly space and energy. And so I was gifted life alignment. I did many, many things in the holistic realm. We had a very large clinic in Toronto for several years and became from an architect to a doctor of natural medicine, but really focusing on the reality of who we really are, which is something I began to sense as a young boy. So it's something that clearly was my purpose, my mission, and in 1991 received this particular program, you might say, that works through different points in the body related to the organs and glands, but really identifies energetically on the one hand and emotionally and mentally on the other hand, where the blockages are held in the body, because this is our vehicle. It's in our field naturally, but it reflects in the body. And so it's been a very long journey. I received the first module in 1991 and couldn't really understand why it was so different from everything that I'd learned before. When I got back to the clinic after receiving it, I was just totally amazed by the efficacy and the power, and the people were waiting for me to teach it. So I started teaching in 91, and then every couple of months or year, another module would come, and it's still ongoing. 35 years since that time, and really works at uncovering and releasing whatever blockages based on not the mental intention, I want my back to be healed or whatever it is, but the soul's agenda, because the soul at any moment in time knows exactly what's going on and what needs to be transformed and released. So it aligns with the higher agenda of the soul. And we call that by priority and by permission. So it's not what the client wants because I've got a pain or I've got problems in my relationship or my job. That's just at the surface. And often the soul has a little giggle and says, really, that's what you think it is? But there's something much deeper than that. And so the practitioner in life alignment has to be completely neutral, detached, and open to source, and is guided through a series of processes. And it's been extremely effective. I've been teaching it in many, many countries and spent many years being on the road for about 9 months of the year, traveling and teaching. Thank goodness for COVID, I don't do that anymore. Most of it's online, and I still do some traveling. And so in a nutshell, that's what life alignment is. We have many teachers and many practitioners all around the world. So it is a global community, and it is for the purpose of global healing. And I've just been guided all the way along. So I've never had to really use my analytical mind to try and work it out. It's such a joy. I've had to learn to trust it very profoundly over the years.
Thank you so much for this share. What I really feel is that you are very humbling carrying this as a custodian, almost like a steward. And also, I really want to acknowledge that you just mentioned that you were an architect and you had a clinic. And so I assume that even Spirit, knew exactly who Spirit is going to work with, because you already had kind of some expertise and knowledge that you could put together. So that's really beautiful. And the aspect of global and, the community in global healing obviously is super important for us at the summit as well. That's why we're bringing together all these different experts and speakers, and all of us share this intention to build this network to raise global healing. I saw that you also offer a live teaching in South Africa in February. Just want to mention this for people who might join. So I might be there as well, because I'm going to be there, and I would love to also meet in person. So let's see. But sticking to the Global Online Summit, you're bringing a very specific meditation, I saw. And I would love to hear about that. I think you call it the Vortex Energetics Circle. Yes. So I would love to, even if it's just 2-3 sentences, so that also the audience can hear already what they can look forward to.
Right. Well, the Vortex system came to me, was downloaded at a particular point, as tools for transformation. But not only for transformation, for helping us live in this world, this very invasive, polluted world, to protect us from electromagnetic radiation, from toxins in the food and water and air, to work with the land, to work with homes where there are geopathic stress energies and so on. So it is multidimensional, the Vortex system. And we've been working with these tools for many years. And so we've just recently developed a system that can be used by the general public, not by just students. So I'll be utilizing the tools in a particular pattern, like on a circle, and it transmits very specific frequencies. It's very powerful. When I first received Vortex in 1994, I think it was, after having just worked with hands and intention. I didn't think we needed external tools, but I soon began to recognize the tremendous gift of these tools. And they are very powerful. They help to deepen and accelerate the healing process, and particularly when we do collective work. So I'll be using meditation in conjunction with Vortex energetics as a means of transmission. Of course, the meditation itself is a transmission. It doesn't come from me, but it comes from the many beings that I have been working with for many, many years. So I just become a conduit for that. So it's not what I say in the meditation necessarily, but what can be transmitted. And the beauty of it, which I discovered after COVID, is that it can be felt online anywhere in the world, which is such a blessing. And I'm sure we've all discovered this in our work when we work online. So there can be 10,000 people or 10, and it is transmitted according to what is needed by the collective. So it becomes, for me, it's a great privilege to be a conduit for that. And so we will work with awakening our spiritual essence, and it will touch people in ways that they need to be touched for whatever reason.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for that gift for also everyone who's going to join. And then the other thing is, because I just mentioned the workshops that are going to happen live in South Africa, because you also have a lot of workshops online and in global community, as you said, with many other people who are also teaching. And there's one workshop that we will offer also through LAULIMA, and it's the workshop Awaken Your Spiritual Essence. So maybe you can also share a little bit of that.
All right. Well, when we work collectively, I do work with one person at a time that represents the whole collective field. Now, of course, I cannot do that with my mind, but there is a high intelligence that identifies that and transmits through that. And the whole group is impacted through that. And so this is not teaching through mental dogma, but it's teaching through life experience, and people feel it and are deeply transformed through that process. In our open workshops, we work through individuals that represent the whole, and the intelligence that chooses that is really beyond anything that one can fathom with the mind. And so there is deep transformation that happens because the higher forces discern exactly what needs to happen in the field. Now, the field, of course, is the microcosm for the global field. So every time we do an open workshop, it is also doing global work. And so it represents not only the people in the workshop themselves, but we also look at the global implications of what is coming up. And so that's what an open workshop entails.
I'm feeling very touched. We really never had the chance to speak before. So this interview for me is also a really big honor to speak to you personally and get to know you a bit more from how you perceive all these things. I really want to emphasize here is to say that everyone who's listening and everyone who's coming, whether you acknowledge it yourself or whether you know or whether you come with the intention, but really the healing of one individual person is going to affect the whole community and is going to affect the whole planet. No. And that it's so often that people who feel called or feel a specific purpose, that they have the feeling that they always have to serve and have to do things for others and be there for others. But it's so crucial that we are also acknowledging and that we're also looking within and starting with ourselves and show up for ourselves, because if we heal individually, we also heal the collective. And I think that's beautiful how you shared that.
That's an essential dynamic, that we surrender to whatever the transformation is for ourselves. And only through that can it be transmitted and emanated out into the collective field. Has to start with us.
And also the aspect that what I really love and can feel already from the conversations we had also with other people in your team that this global community you mentioned before is like a family, that it really feels like everyone's welcome and everyone is included, and that you're becoming part of the whole collective right away in the beginning. And maybe you can also share a little bit, because I know that there's many practitioners in LAULIMA. They might be interesting whether that could be something that they also can learn as a practitioner.
Yeah, well, it's life alignment is a very, not a complex, but it's an involved process that can take years if you want to go the whole way. But the beauty is that even in our first very foundation workshop, which is a few days, there are tools there that you can do enormous amount of work, and it just builds on that. So it's not like you have to go through long training. Now, Vortex Energetics is something we are teaching people in a couple of hours how to work on themselves and their family and loved ones. It's a simple process and very effective, very powerful. So there's so many levels of course, later on, they may choose to go deeper and getting deeper into the emotional process, the deeper emotional process than we do in the foundation course. But when we raise frequency and whatever tools you use, I mean, as you mentioned family constellations, it's a very similar process where one represents others. When we use these tools, they impact ourselves, they impact those that they're working with in a very simple way. But the key, of course, as I mentioned, is the raising of frequency, the raising of consciousness, because we have to, and it's not easy to do it with your mind. We can meditate for years and years. As long as we are meditating in a lower frequency, the mind is going crazy. We have to reach a particular point, and it's very simple in our process, that we come to a frequency where the ego mind says, okay, I cannot compete with that, and surrenders and says, all right, you're the boss. And the mind becomes still in a very, very short period of time. And in that stillness, there is great. We know that when we finally get to that in meditation, great power and great joy. So we
Yeah.
really work on freedom.
I think we could talk for hours now. I have so many questions and I'm so curious about life alignment and all the different tools and practices. But what I would love to finish with is, because in the very beginning you said, the overall intention is to come into this frequency of joy. And I would really love to know from you, what is it that brings you joy? Like, how do you raise your frequency? What is it that you as Jeff Levine are loving to do to bring yourself joy?
Well, I think we spoke about, living in that dimension. That's joyful and peaceful. We can stay in a state of equanimity. Yes, of course, external things bring us joy, doing different things in nature or kayaking in the river or, doing a variety of things. But it's nothing compared to the joy that we feel when we come into that beautiful place. That's joy.
So you're speaking in that place within that we all can create. And then the joy, that is the state that we're in. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming today, Jeff. Is there anything you want to share with the audience? Is there anything you feel you still want to say?
Well, I really look forward to being part of the summit where we can tap into a new collective field, because the more opportunities we have to imbue the field with that frequency of love and joy is a great opportunity for what is needed right now on the planet. And so I just open myself to be guided for whatever is needed. I never have, when I go into a workshop, I have no agendas whatsoever. Don't prepare, and I just align and surrender to what needs to happen. And that's joy. It's just being in the moment and really trusting. Trust brings joy, because when we don't trust, it brings us patterns of survival and fight or flight and all of that. So I trust that whatever needs to happen will happen the right moment and place.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing with us. And I wish you a
Thank you
wonderful
so
rest of
much,
the day.
Dennis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for listening in. So if you're curious and keen to join the Global Online Summit, make sure you sign up. You will receive also some beautiful gifts from Jeff and his community and from other speakers as well. So make sure that you sign up. And yeah, thank you for everyone listening in. And we're looking forward to seeing you on September 20th. Bye, everyone.